So you could see how you could just have a single channel compressor that you could place across one particular channel, or a mono, a subgroup, or even just one side of a stereo channel. A better solution, certainly on the stereo bus, is to have a dual channel, which will allow you to link up those two sides so that the detection will be a lot more consistent across the left and right channels, so it doesn't move around your stereo image too much. So, having a stereo one for either stereo subgroups or your stereo master bus is a way to go. If you need a lot of bang for your buck, there are also multi-channel ones like this PreSonus ACP88, which gives you 8 independent mono compressors and also has gates as well. So this is a really great thing if you have if you live in the hardware world and you want to independently compress and gate up to 8 different devices. Something like this, it gives you a lot of bang for the buck. So do you now kind of understand that dynamic processors may have a single channel, they may be stereo, or even up to 8 independent processors in a single hardware unit? Now, of course, all of this flies out the window in the software world. In your computer, you can bring over multiple instances of any of your compressors or any other software plugin for that example. So, over here, if this was in the hardware world, I save up to buy one compressor. I can use it once. But in the software world, you can drag that over to any input channel, to any subgroup, or across the master bus as well. Unlimited only to the extent of the power of your computer. It's a pretty amazing feat when you compare that to earlier, hardware studios where you could only really afford to buy a few hardware compressors. So no matter where you place your dynamics processor in terms of how we've described, on a single channel, on a subgroup, or across the master bus, you'll notice that the entire signal is going through the processor. The entire signal of the single channel or the subgroup or the mix in this case. The whole signal comes in, trips the threshold, and the gain reduction takes place on that same signal. Now, there's another very different form of routing called sidechain. So imagine this is your dynamic processor, and like we've said before, a million times before, a dynamic processor is broken into two halves, the detection side and the gain reduction side. So let's imagine we had an input coming in and say it's a synth pad. Well, the detection side would look at the level of that synth pad, and then depending on whether that's past the threshold or not, it would then pass it over to the gain reduction side where all the squashing or the gain reduction would take place. But what about a different scenario? Instead of the detection circuit on the left-hand side looking at the input, how about it looked at a sidechain input? In other words, a completely independent input. And based on the level of that sidechain, it would then act on that synth pad. This is called sidechain compression. Let's see it in action.